I'm just going to record it for us. Thanks so much, Tamryn. We're just going to do a quick, I'm going to really do a quick bio. Tamryn said she wanted to cut it down. I said possibly cut it down too little, but hopefully we get to know a little bit more about her through the questions. So Tamryn is a wedding and portrait photographer with a passion for bringing out the best in people and showing it back to them through photographs. When Tamryn is not taking photos or editing, because I think that's a large part that people don't really respect about photography. They always just want to know, where are the photos? Meanwhile, the editing part is probably one of the hardest. She can be found running or spending time with her 2 dogs. So yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Tamryn. And we will definitely dig a little bit more into more Tamryn through the questions today. So let's kick off with, tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you actually landed up in photography.
Sure. So that's, it's quite a long story,
okay.
But very basically, I grew up believing that you have to go off and study to be a doctor or a lawyer or study something to be a professional. And the day I found out that you could do photography as a career, my whole world changed. My life changed, my world, the way I saw the world, everything changed. And I started photographing absolutely every single thing and everyone that crossed my path. And I lived in a small town, so I think I photographed every human being and every object in that town. And I pretty much haven't stopped. I've explored a lot more on what really sets that fire in my soul. And I mean, I love weddings, and I've had to explore why I love it so much. I mean, I love photographing wildlife, but why do weddings really set that fire in my soul?
Yes.
And it all comes down to the fact that I have this huge passion for helping people, and more specifically, helping people see themselves and see the value in themselves. And that drives absolutely every single thing I do. I mean, I talk a lot about my running in general in life, and if you get to know me,
okay.
And even that, it's not about the running that I love. It's about the running community is insanely supportive, but it's also about that experience and being able to witness and sometimes be a part of seeing people pushing themselves and pushing their boundaries. I mean, at the level that I run it, it's not about how fast you really can go. It's more about the mental side of it. It's how long can you run for mentally? How long can you keep pushing yourself? How long or how fast can you push yourself? And it's all mental, and it's breaking those barriers and seeing people break those barriers. And often I get to be a part of it, and I love it. And then, yeah, dogs are amazing.
So do you also do a bit of pet photography in your passion for photography?
I do a lot of pet photography. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
I love dogs.
Well, there we go. We have something in common. I love the pet side, but I'm also a long distance runner. And yeah, okay. I'm just going to say it isn't about the speed when you do long distance. It's most definitely the mind.
Yeah, all of it's the mind, at least at our level. Maybe if I had to stay in their level, it's about the genetics.
Yes.
But for most people, it's the mind.
The mind. So then what would you have studied if kind of thinking you had to do something like a lawyer? What would you have chosen before you knew photography was an option?
Well, probably a doctor.
Okay, but so you were just...
That kind of freaks me out a bit, though. I suppose it's again helping people. I mean, maybe I would have gone more into the psychology side of things. I love the psychology side of things.
Okay, awesome.
But yeah, I would have probably the medical side.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this phrase that I often hear people talking about in terms of personal branding. And can you maybe just explain a little bit more about what this actually means and maybe why the catchphrase? Yeah.
So it's pretty much like a headshot, but just conveying more information. It's conveying a message. It's not actually a message. It's conveying the message you want to convey. So how I do that is I go and I explore more about the clients. I explore more what is their business all about? Who is their target market? Who do they want to be talking to? All the information, what makes them stand out from the crowd? How are they more valuable than their competitor? Or tell me more about themselves. And then you bring all of that together in an image, whether it's through posing, lighting, the color of the clothing that they're wearing. It's everything, the facial expression. What do they have in the background of their image? It's literally everything. yeah, it's pulling all those elements so that the message that you convey is exactly what you want your client to see, or the person viewing the image to see. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
It's
So
shot on fire.
basically, yeah, taking the old, as we call traditional headshot, and really giving it some personality.
Yeah,
I think
exactly
that.
that.
Yeah, that's so. Let's maybe then jump straight in before I was going to answer almost part of the next question. So let you maybe go straight into it. Just then, why are more entrepreneurs considering this kind of personal branding approach versus the traditional photography or headshots as we know it? I mean, obviously, you've just said it's about bringing the brand to life. And why do you feel that people are more keen in this approach versus the traditional, more maybe professional look?
Headshots. Yeah, because they should be. Very basically, they should be. I think people are starting to realize how important imagery is. Yeah, and they're being clever about it and starting to use it to their advantage. So yeah, I think it's a no-brainer about why they should be doing it. You get so much more information so much quicker by looking at an image. You have to be so much more intentional to go and read like an about you page or something on a website to find out more about a company or about a person. And it takes a lot of effort. And again, I think that intentional word's quite important. It takes a lot of effort for a person to go and be so intentional. Whereas looking at an image, you get so much information, even on a subconscious level, so quickly, so easily, that it's just, yeah, it's a no-brainer why people would use it. And actually, I have a little story.
Oh, good. You like stories.
When I was a little kid, little kid, before I had this idea that you had to be a doctor or something, I would watch movies and I thought I should become an FBI agent.
Yeah, those looked really cool. CSI, that was one of my favorites.
What FBI, Sue Thomas or something, FBI, and she had a dog. Anyway, I was convinced that I should become an FBI agent. I would watch these movies and I always knew who the bad guy was. Like nobody in the movie knew, but like I knew. And I was like the special gifted person because like I knew this information before these experts knew it. And then life happened, I carried on, I went off to varsity and I studied visual communication. And then when I started watching these movies and these series, I watched them a lot more intentionally. And I watched how these lighting experts and the wardrobe experts, how they really used all these elements to convey a message and to manipulate your mind.
Yeah.
And suddenly I realized how very lucky I was that I didn't become an FBI agent, because it would have really sucked without all these lighting experts to come and help me. But my point here is that, yeah, everyone all around you, they're using lights to convey a message. They're using images to convey a message. And you kind of have two options in life. Yeah. You can ignore it and say it doesn't exist and you can go along life being manipulated, or you can buy into it and pay more attention to it and use it to your advantage. You can really just be more intentional about looking at the images that you're seeing and really reading intentionally what somebody's trying to say to you and what they're trying to portray. And yeah, I mean, your world will change.
Awesome. Yeah. And for me, I think what I like about the personal branding aspect of everything is, never mind, we are obviously creative people. And from a branding perspective, it's differentiated. But for me, what's even more unique about it is in my kind of process, and what I do is I hone into that unique value proposition and I hone into it and I hone into it. And for me, personal branding is just such a nice way to, once you've defined that unique value proposition, how can you now bring it to life through photography, you know, which is obviously absolutely possible.
And it's exactly that.
Yeah.
Because people do business with people. You want to know and you want to be able to relate. I mean, even we said like, oh, we've got that similarity. We're both runners. And like instantly there's that connection and like, hey, I like you kind of thing. Yeah. Because we have that common ground, and you need to portray that through your images as much as possible so that your clients, that you are relatable.
And you're different. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, every week I like to ask entrepreneurs that come on board to share some tips, being experts in your field. Share with us some top tips, keep it to 3, whatever you've got, for entrepreneurs who are perhaps considering this kind of personal branding, to define and differentiate themselves. What are things that they should kind of consider before perhaps arriving at the shoot, or, you know, what do they need to think about in advance? I mean, I think we've maybe just touched on briefly, but I think let's hear from you. What are some of the key things to think about?
So I think number 1 is to definitely have a plan. know where they're going to use these images, know how they're going to use them. Are they using them for social media? Are they using them solely on their websites? Are they going to be published in newspapers or on in magazines? Like, where are they going to be used, so that they know? Because also your target market might change depending on where you're using these images. I mean, how you market to someone on LinkedIn might be different to how you market to someone on Instagram, or how you want to be perceived in a magazine article or wherever it is. And I think know that plan, have that plan. If you're a new business and you're starting out also, know what you want your website to look like, so that everything ties in together and you've got the same look and feel and the same approach throughout everything. So that plan is like absolutely imperative. And I think that's also where it's important, where you need to have a social media coach, or you need to have, if you don't understand social media at all, you have to have chatted to somebody who does know about it. Otherwise, go to a brand strategist. You need to have a plan. You can't just come to me like, hey, I need personal branding images or business branding images, and know nothing else.
It work like that.
And no. I think number two, quite a shocking thing is when I ask a lot of people, like, who's your target market? How do you want to be portrayed? What are your strongest like elements? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you want? How do you want to be perceived by your clients? People don't know that. They kind of just like going through life without really honing in on who their target market is. And I think that's quite important. Know that before you come to me, because if you really know who that is and who you want to be speaking to, we can do that through the images. We can do that through lighting. As an example sort of thing, if you're a bulldog in the courtroom, you can really do some really harsh lighting and stuff so that you get that message across. Whereas if you want to do family law and you want to like have young vulnerable mothers coming to you, you don't really want that really harsh lighting that you kind of like appear as this real bulldog that's just going to like bombard you, or that you're too unapproachable, whatever. So you really have to know who your target market is and how you want to be perceived. And you need to know that before you come to me. You can't kind of wing it through the shoots and like before the shoot. And number three, I think most importantly, it's a lot of fun. It's nothing that you have to be scared of. It's really quite an incredible experience having pictures that you love of yourself, that you want to put out there in the world, that you want to give out to your clients, or like put on social media, put on your website, put it wherever. Because you have to, I mean, for businesses these days, you have to be everywhere. You have to be showing your face. And to have an image you love just makes it so much easier. And it's fun. The whole experience is fun. We all have fun. I think maybe me the most, but we all have so much fun.
No, I think you guys definitely have more fun. I know I've been there, you know, on the other side of the camera, and it's always like, Megan, tilt your head this way. Okay, tilt your head. Okay, tilt it. Okay, like what the hell? This does not feel natural. Yeah, but that's how it must look, because it's for the lighting, and it's
the difference.
Definitely more fun for you, I think, as the photographer. But I totally agree. Those tips of advice bring the most amazing results. You know, I've seen it myself.
But you say that, but more fun for the photographer. I've had clients walk in here and they are terrified. They're so scared. They see studio lighting, which is also why I use a lot more natural lighting these days. But you see this terror and this fear in their eyes. And then they walk out and like they transform. They walk out with confidence and they've got so much like enthusiasm to go embrace the world. And it's an incredible experience for them too, to just also be the focus point for however long the shoot lasts. And it's an incredible experience.
Okay, awesome. And definitely I would add, if you want to use props, because, you know, I think that's also, there's a whole kind of branding, personal branding photography. You know, I see a lot more people using props, being a bit more quirky, how that, you know, not just typically sitting with a cup of coffee or a laptop, as we know, but rather using, you know, fun and quirky props.
So yes, I 100% agree. Like you have to bring in whatever you have in the background, whatever you have with you, it conveys a message. Like you need to be conveying as much information as possible through that image, as much as you can about who you are, what your business is about. So yeah, if you can include props, especially if they are relevant to who you are or what your business is or what it does and values, bring them in like 100%.
Yeah, as we say, a picture says 1,000 words. So we really want to capture those 1,000 words in that one image. So I think, yeah, that is definitely some nice top tips. We've most definitely got a plan coming from the strategic planner herself. Absolutely do not do anything without a plan and not knowing where you want to put these images. definitely know who your target market is. And I would even say, what is your unique value proposition? Like, what is it that you want to put across to everybody?
Yeah,
So you don't
yeah,
just
exactly. And also who your target market is right now might actually be different to who your target who you want your target market to be in 5 years time. And also know that, because knowing who you want your target market to be, if you are a growing business and stuff, you can also include that to some extent in your images, or you can change that that's how you're being perceived and all that information. So if you actually are targeting those clients more now, then you could just speed up that whole process.
Yeah, awesome. And then last tip is just absolutely enjoy, have fun, and fall in love with the imagery. And obviously, if you're not happy, then we redo it, right? I mean, that's life. But at the same time, I think, as you said, more the opposite is people come in, have an amazing experience, and walk out feeling totally exhilarated and full of confidence. And then when the photography comes, once a bit of editing has been done, very limited, then we're like, oh my gosh, is this the same person? That's often a response I also have for myself. I'm like, is this really the same person? And it's just such an amazing result. So just in finishing, so why do you believe professional photography really enhances the image of a business overall? Because obviously, with the likes of cell phones today, and self kind of taking selfie videos and photography and things like that. I mean, but let's just maybe talk a little bit about why, from your perspective, being a professional photographer, why you feel it enhances the image of a business overall, and why people should really consider, using more professional photography than maybe snapshotting something on their phone.
Yeah. So I think it's easier to identify a bad image than it is to identify a good image. So let me ask you this. How many times, I mean, we've all been on Zoom for the last year plus. How many times have you been sitting on Zoom, you're talking to a new person and they've got no image? And like, you really just want to see that person. You've never met them before. You want to get a bit of an idea of who they are. That's kind of the same experience that someone gets if they go onto your website and there's no picture of you. So, I mean, we've experienced it. We'll be sitting here like, please, can we just see a little bit of you? And even if it's someone that we do know, I mean, we were doing catch-up chats with our running group and stuff, and somebody will have their camera off and you're like, please just turn it on. Like, we want to see you.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how your clients feel, or how somebody who's a potential client feels when they go onto your website and they can't see you. Then let me ask you this. How many times have you had a Zoom call with someone and they've got this bright light behind them and they're just the silhouette and you can't really see?
Yeah, that's been me a few times, I think, until I try to get my lighting right. Yeah.
But you notice it because you can't see this person. So you're aware of how bad their image is, but not as much as you notice when it's good lighting and it's a good image. And you also notice, when they've got a mess in the background, or if you learn something new about them, if they've got like medals hanging on the wall or something, you're like, hey, you're a runner, or whatever it is. Yeah. Or they've got a pram and you suddenly realize like, hey, you're a parent. There's a lot of information that gets conveyed, and we're noticing this so much now even just when we're on Zoom. But I love that you actually mentioned cell phones and stuff, because I feel that it's elevated photography so much. I mean, the last decade, photography has grown so much. And if I look at youngsters, I mean, it's always like, oh my gosh, they're taking another selfie. But it's incredible to see. I mean, you see them and they've got so much knowledge around lighting and posing and expression that they've learned without even realizing it. And then they go on holiday and they go and take pictures of wherever they are, and they've learned a bit about the stuff. So their images are better. And you kind of just think, okay, so it's our youngsters who are getting better at photography and they're elevating the whole standard of photography as a whole. But it's not. Everyone's being elevated because they post those pictures. They post them on Facebook and everywhere. And Granny goes and looks at these pictures, and they're all these amazing pictures from their grandchild. And then they go into your website, maybe your newspaper or something, but they go and see this bad picture and they realize it's a bad picture because all they've been exposed to is these good pictures. So really, a good picture is just going to make your brand look more professional. And as much as a good picture might not stand out as much, a bad picture really stands out. And a bad picture, I mean, previously you probably could get away with a few bad pictures, but now, I mean, the standard of photography is just, it's growing, it's getting so much higher, and a bad picture stands out. But I think I also need to add there, as much as I believe that you do need to have professional pictures on your website and you have to be posting them on social media occasionally, there is still a place for selfies or for your unprofessional pictures. For that picture, that snapshot that you take of your child or whatever, there's a place for that, and you can post that on social media. And not everything, even in your business, has to be professional. If it's on your website and stuff, sure. But on social media, I mean, we've been chatting a lot about how you have to come across as authentic and what are your strengths and stuff. If that plays in on like who you are as a person, and if it's stuff that you can show off and just do snapshots, people like that. It also shows that you are being authentic and stuff. So there's definitely a need for professional images, but that doesn't exclude the need for unprofessional images and your little snapshots and whatever it is.
Day to day. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think you made a good point there in saying, agreed, even the cameras we have today on the phones, I mean, the pixels are insane. So if you get the lighting right and you can't really make, I mean, I've seen amazing photos on Facebook with people just using their cell phones. But as you say, that has a place. But at the same time, if you're representing a business, and especially as you say on your website, you know, if it's a portfolio or a brochure that people are going to be looking at, that's really the time to consider, again, what is it that you want to put across to people? You know, how do you want to portray your brand? And then bringing that through in professional photography, because for me, it just enhances everything totally. You know, it just enhances it 110%. And I mean, who wouldn't want that? And it doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. Don't you just love that, Tamryn? I'm sure that's one of the comments you hear often is, I need professional photography, but it mustn't cost an arm and a leg.
Definitely. But you get what you pay for.
Agreed. So thank you so much for sharing with us again today. I think it's been awesome just sharing a little bit more about this personal branding. I think it's really a new avenue for a lot of entrepreneurs that possibly haven't even thought about doing it. Kind of gone over the mug shots or the headshots as we knew, and rather let's get personal, but getting to understand what your unique value proposition is a good start, and then let's get personal in our photos and put these across to our prospect target audiences. So yeah, thank you so much again to you, Tamryn. And next week we will be joined by Pranita Ranchard talking about cash flow in our business. So back into the finance, perhaps just the time of year, maybe we need to be looking a bit inwards. And please, if you did enjoy the interview, go on and share it for us. And then we will see you again next week, 12 o'clock, same time, same place. And then, yeah, everyone have a super weekend. Thanks, Tamryn.
You're absolutely welcome. Thanks so much for having me here.
It's a pleasure.